Hey guys, what's up, Mallory? Hey guys, what's up? It's Mallory. Yeah, there we go. That's what I meant to say. Today's video is my worst, most embarrassing, most awkward auditions. This video is for any of y'all who maybe are feeling bad about a recent audition or are looking for a laugh or to just make fun of me. But anyways, I'm going to tell y'all some of my worst audition stories. Now, a little fact about me. I have trouble speaking sometimes. Sometimes my thoughts just are so fast in my head that what comes out doesn't make sense, or sometimes I think an idea in my head is better than when it's actually said, and just sometimes I don't have a filter and things come out that make me sound like an idiot. There's some of that in there, and then there's just some monologue and just clumsy stuff. So we're gonna get straight into this video. I'm not gonna name the school specifically just because I don't want to. So this was my very first audition ever. I was super nervous because I was having one of those moments where I was like, this audition is the start of my future for the next 4 years. I was just having a crisis. So I go in, I do my monologues, and it was fine. And the setup of the auditions were kind of quick in and out sort of thing. So I don't know why I didn't prepare for this, but I should have. But basically, I finished my monologues and I was heading out of the door and they were like, do you have any questions for us? And of course, me being stupid and not preparing for this type of thing to happen, I said the worst thing I could have ever said. I go, can you tell me a little bit about your program? Because to be completely honest, I don't know a lot about your program or your school. And then I said it and I was like, Mallory? Are you kidding? You're trying to get into the school. Why would you tell them that they were one of your backup schools, basically? But luckily the people were very nice and they just, you know, kind of gave me a rundown of their program, and I walked out of that audition and I was like, well, I'm not getting in there, and I didn't. So my first audition was a complete failure. Now we're gonna go to my very last audition, which you would think, since I had done what, 15 auditions before that, that I would have had the system down. These auditions were very professional. I knew that they had a cut-off time at 2 minutes, and I was completely prepared to be cut off if my monologues went over the time limit. So I go in, I am doing my monologue, and my monologues were going too long, so someone yelled time. And right when they said time, I literally was like, Z, and they all looked at me and they were like, what noise just came out of this girl? And I literally was like, Z, thank you for your time, and I just ran out. I am an awkward person. That was a very awkward experience. Oh, this one's funny. So my throat's feeling a little scratchy, a little bit dry before I go into this audition, and I go in and I do my first monologue. It was fine, whatever. Then I start doing my second monologue, and I'm literally at the home stretch and my throat just gives out and I start choking in the middle of my monologue and start coughing, and the auditors were like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Do you need water? And they were like handing me their water, and I was like, so that happened. And then I finished choking and I just started laughing, and I was like, thank you. And I ran out of there because that was so embarrassing. So that was a fun audition. Okay, this audition I was late to. So I get to the audition about 20 minutes late, and I kid you not, I walk up to the rest of the kids, and then the auditor inside was like, Mallory heard. And so then I was like, okay, I guess I'm going now. And the audition went fine, and then she asked me to do some adjustments. Fine, I love adjustments actually. I think they're so fun to do in an audition. It kind of spices things up a little bit. So she asked me, I want you to go to the back of the room. And this room was a large rectangular room. So she asked me to run forward while saying my monologue. And she had me do that about 5 times. And each time she was like, I want you to keep building each time I ask you to do it. So I'm like doing sprints back and forth in this room. And my out of shape aspirin bottle runs out of breath. Here I am panting like a dog, and she's like, okay, come sit for the interview portion. I was like, okay. So I go sit down and she's asking me these questions, like my favorite author and like my favorite play and my favorite movie, which I know the answer to these questions. I had prepared answers for these kind of basic questions. I just said like the dumbest responses. I don't even remember because honestly I was panting so hard and she was asking me these questions and I just said, sorry, I don't know the answer to these right now. My brain isn't working. And she was just like, oh, okay. So I was at an audition. This is just an example of my clumsiness. I got into the room and I realized how much space I had. So I'm doing my Shakespeare monologue. I was like, you know, I'm just gonna like really use my space. So I am doing my monologue. I trip during my Shakespeare monologue. I trip over my own foot. And of course the auditor started laughing and it was at the beginning of my monologue. So the rest of my monologue, I was like, are you kidding, Mallory? Are you kidding? So my next audition. This is the school that I went to for my summer program. My auditor in the room was actually one of my teachers there. So I knew her already. And then a boy who I had done community theater with, I found out a couple days before my audition that he was actually going to be in my audition, which I am a person who didn't really get freaked out at things thrown at me or 10 people in my audition versus one person in my audition. I really didn't care. I was honestly like, ooh, friendly face. Awesome, haven't seen him in like 10 years. The format was you're just gonna do one of your monologues. So I chose to do my dramatic monologue. I was actually the last person and so I got to see how much time each person's audition was and they were going pretty fast. So I kind of assumed that do your monologue, get out. So I was expecting that going in. I go to my audition and you know, he's there. The teacher I had had over the summer was in there. So I did my dramatic monologue. They were like, okay, great, great, great. Can you say your comedic monologue to him? Which my comedic monologue was about a girl who stripped in an audition so she could get noticed. The word nipples was in my monologue, which we all have nipples. I don't care to say it in a monologue. Nipples, nipples, nipples. I don't care. And so, you know, I'm like, of course I can do that for you. I will do that for you. I start looking at him, say my monologue, and it was just a little bit, you know, unnerving that the last time he saw me, I was like 8, and now here I am talking about how I stripped in an audition and that my nipples were not the point of the audition. So that was kind of an interesting, fun audition for Mallory. My last story is going to be my most interesting story, I'd say. This audition was an on-campus audition, and the audition portion of it was the second to last thing that we did. Before that, we had a Q&A, a tour, a movement class. Once we finished all that, they kind of explained to us what the audition was gonna look like, and it was gonna be a workshop type deal, and all the auditioners were going to watch each other like a workshop. There were 3 auditors, a woman and then 2 men, and then there were 2 current acting students at the school in there too. People started doing their auditions, and what they made every person do was they'd do their monologue once, ask little questions, and then they'd have one of the 2 current acting students at the school come forward so that the auditioner could perform the monologue to the student, and the student would be giving subtle reactions so you could kind of bounce off of the expressions that the student gave you. That was pretty much what every person did. There were about 15 of us in the room, so about 10 students had gone, and it was very lighthearted. Like, it was a very relaxed environment. We were joking, we were laughing, and it wasn't a very serious audition. I felt very comfortable. I wasn't nervous. I had a great weekend. Like, I was completely fine. I was actually so excited to do this audition because it was so different from any other audition that I had done. So I go up there, I do my monologue once, and then I knew what was coming next. They were gonna ask me questions, and then I was gonna perform it to one of the 2 students. So they asked me the questions, and then they're like, okay, instead of performing to the 2 students, will you perform it to the female auditor? And I was like, yeah, sure, totally, that's fine. I'm starting to do my monologue, and something happened. I don't know if it was that I was getting facial response that I could bounce off of from this woman, or I just was really into it, or both, but I just started bawling. And just a reminder that this whole audition had been super lighthearted. We were all laughing. It was very comfortable. And I am just bawling in my audition. I can see it in the auditor's face, like, is she okay? So I'm bawling and I'm still doing my monologue. Then she starts saying things to me, like pretending to be this other character. And I just like lost it and started improving my monologue. It was crazy. And then I finished and I'm still bawling. And they're like, are you okay? And I was like, I'm fine, like, I'm fine, like, I don't know what's happening to me. So then they're like, you go get a drink of water, everything's gonna be fine. And then they all dismiss us for lunch. So all the students were like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine, like, I don't know what's happening to me. It was a mess, a mess, a mess. So those were my stories. I hope you found some sort of enjoyment out of them. If anyone's watching this and just had a bad audition or are stressed out that they're going to have a bad audition, I had multiple. Don't stress out. It happens to everyone and it's a completely normal thing. So do not stress out about it. And if you're just here because you wanted a good laugh, I hope that you laughed or made fun of me, whatever, I don't really care. So make sure to subscribe and also follow me on Instagram if you want. I mean, you don't have to follow my social media, but it's there at Mallory Heard _. It's also in the description. I will catch y'all next time in the next video.
You got me running away. You see